When humans say this will be fun, the galaxy knows to brace for impact. Part 1, The Uninvited Guest. The Intergalactic Council's grand halls were nothing short of breathtaking. Towering arches of polished alloy gleamed under distant stars, walls lined with holographic tapestries depicting centuries of galactic peace treaties. Representatives from over 1,000 species convened here, some floating in anti-gravity orbs, others anchored to the ground by their immense, scaled limbs. Each came with a commitment to harmony and a cautious eye on the human delegation. Humanity was the Council's newest member, and despite their relative youth as a spacefaring species, they had rapidly made their presence known. For years, they'd built alliances with species that others feared, forged friendships across the galaxy, and became known for their boundless curiosity and reckless optimism. To most, humans were charming, if a little unpredictable, but there was an unspoken rule that all species had come to understand. When a human said, "This will be fun," it was time to prepare for chaos. And today, that rule was about to be tested. Orbital Platform Gaia, neutral territory near Council space. Captain Lyra Thorne, a veteran of Earth's deep space core, stood aboard the bridge of the Vanguard, watching as the sleek, dagger-like alien vessel approached the human research station in orbit. The Vanguard was a top-tier research and exploration ship, equipped with advanced navigation systems and cutting-edge laboratories, a ship designed more for scientific discovery than combat. Lyra watched as the approaching vessel, a Trellin-class ship belonging to the Zorati, activated its docking sequence. The Zorati were among the Council's most advanced species, known for their mastery of quantum technology and, until recently, their isolationist policies. Humanity's rapid integration had shaken the Zorati, and this visit was their first official exchange with humans. "Captain, Zorati ship is requesting permission to dock," her first officer, Lieutenant Marco Young, reported, a slight smirk on his face. "Looks like our new friends are punctual." "Good," Lyra replied, keeping her expression neutral. She'd been briefed on the Zorati, stoic, highly intelligent, and fiercely traditional. They were here to assess humanity's progress, as they'd put it. Privately, she suspected they were just trying to find reasons to keep humanity under closer watch. The Zorati ambassador, a tall, elegant figure encased in silver exoskeleton armor, stepped through the docking bay doors. His crystalline eyes took in the Vanguard's bustling crew with the faintest hint of disdain. His long fingers clasped tightly together. Beside him was his aide, a younger Zorati, whose gaze darted around with an anxious, hawk-like intensity. "Captain Thorne," the ambassador said, his voice smooth but cold, "I am Ambassador Zarav of the Zorati High Council. We have come to observe your methods. We wish to understand humanity's role within the Council, as well as your unique approach to risk." Lyra gave him a friendly, almost disarming smile. "Ambassador Zarav, welcome aboard the Vanguard. We're honored to have you with us. Today's mission is a relatively simple one, but I think you'll find it informative." Zarav's crystalline eyes narrowed. "What, exactly, does your mission entail?" Lyra exchanged a glance with Yang, who was barely containing his grin. "Well, Ambassador, we'll be conducting a field test in the Azure Nebula, a fascinating stellar nursery with high-energy flux and gravitational anomalies. We believe it holds the key to understanding dark matter interactions. And this experiment," Zarav began, his tone skeptical, "is safe?" Lyra tilted her head, her eyes twinkling with a familiar spark of mischief. "Oh, don't worry, Ambassador, this will be fun." Azure Nebula, edge of known space. The Vanguard drifted gracefully through the swirling blues and greens of the Azure Nebula. Swathes of ionized gas, pulsing with energy, surrounded them, lighting up the bridge in shades of emerald and sapphire. The nebula was breathtakingly beautiful but inherently unstable, with unpredictable gravitational forces and intense radiation that would pulverize an unshielded vessel in moments. The Zorati ambassador was clearly uncomfortable. "Captain Thorne, our readings indicate dangerously high levels of radiation in this sector. Surely your scientists are aware of the risks?" Lyra waved a hand dismissively. "Oh, absolutely, but we've accounted for them. The Vanguard is equipped with the latest meta-frequency shields, and we've run simulations at least 24 times." As if on cue, Lieutenant Yang began to explain with the enthusiasm that humans often had when talking about their latest tech. "You see, the nebula's radiation is highly ionized, which would normally overload a ship's shielding in seconds, but we've tuned our shields to absorb some of that energy and convert it back into auxiliary power. Basically, the nebula fuels us as much as it threatens us." The young Zoratiade looked intrigued but wary. And if the shields fail? Yang shrugged, an amused glint in his eye. Then we get cooked. But hey, that's all part of the fun, right? Zarav looked visibly uncomfortable. To the Zorati, risk was something to be avoided at all costs, managed carefully through probabilities and simulations. The idea of embracing it, of deliberately walking into a hazardous zone, was almost unfathomable. Suddenly, the Vanguard sensors lit up with a warning. "Captain," Yang shouted, his face lit by the flashing lights, "we've got a massive gravity anomaly ahead." It wasn't on the initial scan. Lyra's grin widened. "Perfect timing, Ambassador Zarav. I hope you're ready for a little improvisation." Zarav's face was unreadable, but his silence spoke volumes. The challenge of the Azure Rift. The Vanguard hurtled towards the anomaly, a swirling vortex of gravitational forces that seemed to defy the laws of physics. The Zoratiade looked terrified, clutching onto the nearest console as if his life depended on it. Zarav, for all his composure, seemed equally rattled. "Captain Thorne, what exactly do you intend to accomplish by engaging this anomaly?" Zarav demanded, his voice edged with frustration. Lyra's hands moved swiftly over the controls as she spoke, her focus unshakable. "Ambassador, this is where human ingenuity shines. When we encounter a problem, we don't just avoid it, we explore it, test it, and see what we can learn. Besides, this anomaly could teach us more about dark matter than any controlled lab experiment ever could." Yang chimed in with barely contained excitement. "Plus, it's like the ultimate puzzle. We've been waiting for a challenge like this." As they approached, the vortex's gravity tugged at the ship, causing it to shudder violently. The crew adjusted quickly, making fine-tuned alterations to the shields and thrusters. Every time the vortex seemed to drag them closer, the crew found a way to pull back, turning its own forces against it. The Zoratiade, pale and trembling, whispered to Zarav, "Ambassador, these humans are insane." Zarav, however, was watching the humans with a new glint in his eye, equal parts horror and awe. Despite the chaos, the humans moved with an undeniable confidence, their reactions swift and almost playful as they outmaneuvered the anomaly. It was clear that, for them, this wasn't just a challenge, it was an adventure. Back on the bridge, after nearly an hour of navigating the vortex, the Vanguard broke free, emerging from the nebula relatively unscathed. The bridge erupted in cheers, and even Lyra allowed herself a laugh of triumph. "That," she said, turning to Zarav, "was fun." Zarav's expression softened, a faint smile breaking through his otherwise stoic face. For the first time, he seemed to understand. The humans didn't seek danger out of recklessness or ignorance, they sought it because, for them, it was a doorway to growth, a test of their limits, and an invitation to explore the unknown. "Captain Thorne," Zarav said finally, "perhaps there is merit in your methods. Though unconventional, they are not without courage." Lyra's grin was both friendly and knowing. "Ambassador, courage is just our way of facing what we don't understand, and in this galaxy, there's a lot to learn if you're willing to take a few risks." A galaxy on edge. The Zorati ambassador, Zarav, returned to his homeworld with a conflicted sense of admiration and dread. He had witnessed firsthand the chaotic, unorthodox, and strangely effective methods humans use to tackle problems. Their willingness to throw themselves into situations that other species would avoid at all costs was both awe-inspiring and, frankly, terrifying. The report he filed with the Zorati High Council was a cautious one, warning them that humanity was a volatile force in the galaxy. While other species carefully calculated risks, humans embraced them, seeing challenges as fun rather than perilous. It was a mindset he feared would eventually lead to disaster on an interstellar scale. Word of his report spread quickly, echoing through the interstellar channels, reaching every corner of the galaxy. Soon, rumors and wild stories of human recklessness became a staple of council discussions, and the phrase "if a human says it will be fun" became a kind of grim joke among other species. For those who hadn't yet encountered humans, the tales were both mesmerizing and deeply unsettling. Council space, the High Court of the Trellan Dominion. Meanwhile, in the capital of the Trellan Dominion, a race known for their logic and adherence to strict rules, High Arbiter Galen contemplated the arrival of the humans with growing concern. To the Trellan, humans were not just peculiar, they were a breach in the established order. Where other species cautiously balanced cooperation and control, humanity waded in with smiles. challenging every custom and norm with an almost careless disregard. To Galen, humans were an anomaly, a chaotic influence on the careful peace that had held the galaxy together for centuries. And now, his suspicions were being confirmed. Tales of humans taking on the Azure Rift, rumors of their apparent enjoyment in the face of danger. These were not the actions of a people who respected intergalactic protocols. They were unpredictable, dangerous. The High Arbiter sent out a call for an emergency session of the Council, urging representatives to convene to address what he termed the human problem. He believed humanity was too young, too reckless to be trusted with the peace of the galaxy. The Council Emergency Session, Declaration of Restriction. As the Council convened, representatives from hundreds of species filled the chambers, each abuzz with rumors about the humans' most recent exploits, from the VRRL and the AV Chi to the towering, bipedal Trellin themselves. Each ambassador wore a look of wary determination. High Arbiter Galen took the floor, his imposing presence amplified by his silvery ceremonial robes and piercing gaze. Honorable delegates, he began, his voice carrying a cold authority. We are here to discuss the growing influence and reckless actions of our newest members, humanity, their actions in the Azure Nebula, the disregard for life exhibited by their so-called experiments, threaten not only themselves but the entire balance we have so carefully maintained. He turned to Ambassador Reyes, humanity's representative, who sat calmly, waiting her turn to speak. Humans are quick to embrace risk, Galen continued, but we cannot allow their behavior to destabilize our alliance. Ambassador Amelia Reyes rose, her face composed but her eyes sharp. Arbiter Galen, with all due respect, humanity has contributed significantly to the Council's missions. We've established peace agreements with species that others had failed to reach, introduced medical technologies that have saved countless lives, and aided in stabilizing volatile regions. Our willingness to face challenges directly should not be seen as a liability. Galen's expression hardened. Your actions in the Azure Rift could have collapsed the nebula. Your species exhibits a near-pathological disregard for caution. It is dangerous. Dangerous? Reyes shot back, her voice rising slightly. We see it as progress. Exploration has risks. Arbiter, without pushing boundaries, none of us would have reached the stars. The council chambers fell silent, each species waiting with bated breath. The old orders that governed the council were facing the unfamiliar fire of humanity's ambition. The vote. When the debate ended, the council came to a decision, a restriction on human exploratory operations. From now on, human missions would be limited to Concord-designated sectors, their activities monitored and reported by an oversight committee. It was a way to contain the chaos humanity represented. Ambassador Reyes accepted the decision with a dignified nod, but inwardly she was furious. Restriction meant stifling their potential, stopping them from reaching further than they ever had before. To humanity, this was a devastating blow. Back on Earth, United Solar Command. In the United Solar Command's headquarters, a storm was brewing. The Council's decision to impose restrictions on humanity's operations had not gone over well on Earth. The brass gathered around, debating their response, and even some of the politicians who'd pushed for the Council membership were outraged. Captain Lyra Thorne, who'd just returned from the Vanguard mission, joined the meeting. So, they want to put us in a box, she muttered, shaking her head, and they think that'll keep us from advancing? Admiral Hayes, a decorated veteran who'd fought in the Martian defense wars, nodded. They're scared, Captain. They think our curiosity is dangerous because they don't understand it. They've forgotten that every species in that council once had to face the unknown and overcome fear to get where they are now. Reyes, fresh from the council chambers, entered with a steely resolve. They can impose restrictions, but they can't stop us from exploring new methods. We have to prove to them that our approach isn't just reckless, that it's effective, valuable. A murmur of agreement went around the room. They'd play by the rules, for now, but they wouldn't let the council suppress their drive for exploration. Edge of council space, covert operations. Within weeks, humanity's spacefaring ingenuity was in overdrive, operating within council-approved boundaries. Human engineers and scientists began devising new methods of exploration that defied convention. They created unmanned probes capable of navigating volatile regions, drones that could bypass dangerous anomalies, and long-range scans that mapped stellar phenomena in unprecedented detail. To other species, these tools were innovative, almost magically effective. It seemed humanity was somehow finding a way to progress without breaking the Council's imposed rules. But in secret, a group within the Deep Space Corps, known only as Project Horizon, had begun preparing for a mission that was anything but sanctioned. They would send a crew to the Shattered Expanse, a distant region rumored to be rich in untapped resources but filled with gravitational storms and unstable spacetime fields. The Shattered Expanse was beyond the Council's approved territories, a place no species had dared explore fully. Captain Thorne was given command of the mission. Her orders were clear but daunting: venture into the expanse, gather as much data as possible, and return without detection. The stakes were immense. If they were caught, it would spell diplomatic disaster. But if they succeeded, humanity would prove that they didn't need to be contained, that they could survive, even thrive, beyond the Council's leash. Launch of the Dauntless. Months of planning culminated in the quiet launch of the Dauntless, a stealth vessel designed specifically for deep space reconnaissance. Equipped with experimental drives that masked its presence from long-range scans, the Dauntless was humanity's answer to the Council's restrictions. As the ship left the Sol system and entered the uncharted edges of the Shattered Expanse, Thorne and her crew steeled themselves. They knew the risks, they knew that if they were discovered, humanity's place in the galaxy would hang in the balance. But for each of them, this was a chance to push the limits, to explore the unknown as only humans could. The Shattered Expanse. The Expanse was a chaotic region of space, a graveyard of shattered planets, and drifting ruins of ancient ships. Gravity fields twisted unpredictably, black holes dotted the region like scars, and storms of high-energy particles flared up without warning. It was beautiful and deadly, a place that only the boldest would dare explore. The crew of the Dauntless maneuvered carefully, navigating the hazards with precision. Their excitement grew as they discovered vast mineral deposits, rare elements, and strange alien technology scattered among the wreckage, findings that would revolutionize technology back on Earth. As the Dauntless mapped the expanse, Thorne's pulse quickened. This was it. This was the discovery that could change everything. The Council couldn't ignore these findings, and if they tried, humanity would press forward regardless. Backlash. But word of the mission leaked. Just as the Dauntless began its return journey, Zorati patrol ships detected an energy signature matching the stealth drives. Within days, Council channels were flooded with outrage, accusations of recklessness, and threats of sanctions. Ambassador Reyes defended humanity's actions fiercely, arguing that they were advancing not just for themselves, but for the entire galaxy. But the Council's fear was palpable. A final stand. In the end, the Council voted to bring the humans in line by force, dispatching a fleet to intercept the Dauntless before it could bring its discoveries back. But humanity didn't back down. When the Council fleet arrived, they found not just the Dauntless but a united armada of human ships and their allies, the few species who saw humanity's boldness as hope, not danger. Humanity had chosen to defy the restrictions, to push forward into the unknown, and in the face of the Council's fear, they declared a simple, unshakable truth: exploration, courage, and the relentless pursuit of progress could not be contained. The galaxy watched as humanity took its place among the stars, no longer as newcomers but as trailblazers, brave, unpredictable, and utterly unstoppable. The line in the stars. A standoff in deep space. The Council fleet loomed in the darkness, a fortress of ships from countless worlds, each one bristling with weapons aimed at the humans, positioned at the edge of the Shattered Expanse. This armada represented the Council's full might. Their order was clear: intercept the Dauntless, seize its data, and force humanity to abide by the restrictions or face consequences. In front of them, a smaller yet resolute fleet of human ships waited. The Dauntless, now flanked by Earth's finest warships, stood firm. Lights from the ship hulls reflected in the cold void of space, casting an eerie glow over the two opposing sides. On the bridge of the human flagship, resolute, Captain Lyra Thorne paced, her mind racing with possibilities. They were outnumbered, perhaps 10-1, but her crew was undaunted, their hands steady on weapons and controls. They knew why they were here. Across from her, Admiral Kethrath, the Trellan commander of the Council fleet, transmitted a final message, his deep, resonant voice filling the bridge. Humans, surrender your data and stand down. You have violated the will of the Council, and we cannot allow your recklessness to endanger us all. Captain Thorne looked to her left, where Ambassador Reyes stood beside her. Reyes's face was impassive, but her eyes blazed with conviction. Thorne gave her a small nod, signaling that she had her full support. Reyes keyed the transmission and spoke, her voice calm but unyielding. Admiral Kethrath, humanity joined the Council in good faith, believing in cooperation and shared progress, but we cannot accept limitations that stifle exploration. We're not here to challenge the Council, we're here to grow and to learn, just as every species once did. Your learning, Kethrath interrupted, threatens the very fabric of stability. Progress is stability, Admiral, Reyes countered. We cannot stop simply because it makes others uncomfortable. This mission has uncovered technology and resources that could benefit every Council species. The Council's restrictions only harm us all. A tense silence followed her words, her defiance echoing across the void. Inside the Council fleet. Within the Council fleet, a ripple of uncertainty spread among the commanders. Over the last few months, humanity's determination had shaken many of them, inspiring both fear and admiration. The data they'd gathered from the shattered expanse could hold immeasurable value, especially for those struggling with energy shortages, planetary degradation, and technological stagnation. Among the admirals, a few had begun to question the Council's stance. They saw humanity's boldness not as recklessness, but as something vital, something that might lead the galaxy into a new age of discovery. One such officer, Admiral Rilash of the VRRL, tapped a clawed finger thoughtfully on her console. She'd long suspected that the Council's overbearing restrictions were more about control than safety, and now, faced with humanity's fearless resolve, she found herself sympathizing. Commander Rilash, I see doubt in your eyes, Kethrath said sharply, his tone a warning. Rilash looked him in the eye, her own gaze defiant. Perhaps I do, Admiral. Tell me, why does the Council truly fear this data? Because it's dangerous, or because it gives humanity the means to stand on equal footing? Kethrath's gaze turned cold, his face tightening. This isn't about fear, it's about order. Rilash didn't respond, but her decision was made. She opened a private channel to the Resolute. An unlikely alliance. On the bridge of the Resolute, Reyes received the transmission and listened carefully. Rilash's message was brief and unambiguous. Human command, this is Admiral Rilash. I believe in the right to explore, to learn. The VRRL ships will not fire on you today. In fact, you may find us joining you in the expanse before long. The crew of the Resolute looked at each other, hope sparking in their eyes. Reyes transmitted a response back to Rilash, gratitude clear in her voice. Admiral Rilash, your decision is wise. We're not here to undermine the Council, we're here to lead it toward a future where every species has a chance to thrive. One by one, other ships from the Council fleet, mostly those from younger species who still remembered the thrill of discovery, switched their transponders to show neutrality. Their captains, bold enough to defy the Council, had chosen not to fire upon the humans. Kethrath seethed, his face a mask of barely controlled rage. You are all making a grave mistake. We cannot allow them to set this precedent. But the dissenting ships held their ground. The fleet was no longer united. The battle begins. Unable to back down, Kethrath ordered his remaining forces to engage. Energy beams and torpedoes erupted from his ships, slicing through the darkness. But the humans were ready. With the support of their new allies, they returned fire, utilizing the experimental tech from the shattered expanse to create gravitational shields that deflected blasts, scattering them harmlessly into space. Thorn's orders were precise and measured, directing her fleet to target only the most hostile vessels while avoiding unnecessary conflict. Focus on defense. We're not here to destroy, we're here to survive. In the midst of the firefight, the Resolute took a direct hit, its shields flaring as the blast rocked the ship. Reyes steadied herself, watching as the bridge crew quickly restored balance. Despite the chaos, their resolve held firm. The battle raged on, with ships from both sides twisting through complex maneuvers, each clash a testament to the stakes of the conflict. The Council's veteran commanders had superior numbers, but the humans were innovative and adaptive, using their experimental tech and clever tactics to hold the line. Finally, the battle turned. The combined human and VRRL forces managed to disable Kethrath's flagship. With his ship immobilized and his fleet in disarray, the proud Trellan admiral had no choice but to issue a ceasefire. Aftermath, a new dawn. As the smoke of battle cleared, Reyes addressed the Council forces, her voice steady and unwavering. This wasn't a victory for humans alone. This was a victory for all who believe that knowledge should be shared, that progress benefits everyone. Rilash, standing beside her on the Resolute's bridge, nodded in agreement. I fought alongside you today, not just for humanity, but for every species that dares to look beyond the stars. The Council will either accept this future, or be left behind. The Council was forced to reassess their stance. After heavy debate and protest, they voted to rescind the restrictions on humanity's exploration, albeit reluctantly. The events of that day had shaken them to the core, revealing fractures in their unity and casting doubt on the old ways. A new era of discovery. In the years that followed, humanity and their allies ventured deeper into the unknown, mapping regions once deemed too dangerous, uncovering secrets lost to time, and advancing technologies that benefited all. The galaxy shifted, slowly but surely, toward an age of shared progress, where exploration was no longer seen as a threat but as a shared right. And every species learned one simple truth: if a human ever said, "This will be fun," it was wise to prepare, to brace for the unknown, and maybe, just maybe, to follow them into it. In time, the phrase became a hopeful warning, a reminder that while humanity was bold and unpredictable, their actions had lifted the galaxy higher than ever before. The end.